everybody. I'm Chris.
Hello, I'm Brig.
Welcome to our webcast.
Yes.
In Dolby Vision, but not really, but whatever. Anyway, so welcome. We have a lot of good stuff to cover today, so I say we just kind of want to jump right into it, I think, unless I don't think we have any announcements or anything.
No, let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's get to it.
Awesome. All right, so today we're going to cover, as you've probably seen in the title, the Windows 10 app removal and advertising removal, which I'm sure many of you have dreaded or encountered and hate and all the fun stuff associated with that. Well, we're hoping to kind of help that.
Yes.
So
A lot.
A lot. And so one of the big things I want to point out first and foremost is, especially for those of you who have used PowerShell to try and uninstall the Windows Store applications, the Appx apps, you've probably read a lot of blogs or forum posts that are flat out wrong. So I can't stress that enough. Wrong. You might be asking, why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong?
See, Briggs asking that, so we might as well go over that. Yes. So essentially what's going on is everybody has this one command of doing for all users with their applications, but really Windows Store apps are per user. And so when you try and remove them, it's only removing them for your current user. So if you've had any experience seeing that, hey, I removed these for the applications for all users on this machine, but then you have a user complaining saying, hey, but this is still showing up, this is why. So we do want to really stress that a lot of those blogs are actually wrong.
Yep.
So it's per user, not per machine. That's strong. So anyway, I kind of want to dive right into that with the PowerShell. So we're going to kind of cover a couple different ways to remove them. I want to show you the PowerShell first, and then how to apply that PowerShell to remove them. And then we're going to come up with some better ways to manage that using Active Directory. So here we go. So I have this available in the bonus content, I believe. If not, it will be there shortly. We actually have this. So this is kind of a dry topic with the PowerShell. I get that, even as awesome as PowerShell can be. But with that, it's really, really easy to get a list of all your applications, including all the applications for all your users. Just right here. These two commands right here. You want to find the app for calculator or for weather or for the 3D builder, a lot of these built-in apps. You can do that just by doing git appx package and with some asterisks for wildcards.
I was just going to ask that.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are a way to do it. This actually gets you that application, then you can actually use that to pipe that command to remove that application. But like I said before, that only works for the current user. And so a lot of people get tripped up on that because it doesn't uninstall it for any other user that's logged onto the machine. But that ties in with what are known as provision packages. Those who have used DISM might be familiar with this, but the PowerShell module for a wrapper for DISM is called provision packages. With those, which are these commands right here, we can actually remove them for the entire machine so that any new users coming on will not actually have that software installed by default. Because the way that the Windows 10 apps work is you actually have a list of applications that are provisioned for this Windows image. When a new user logs on, it says, what's available? I need these. Let's install those. And it installs those. So if you remove those from the provision list, when a new user logs on, they don't get those installed.
Yep.
Pretty clean? Pretty clean, pretty clear. So if you want to see what that kind of looks like, I'll actually show that right here. Just kind of, it's not really anything pretty, but just running this simple command, just this one line, F8, you can see that it actually shows a list of all the applications that are provisioned for this particular installation of Windows. There's quite a few. In fact, I think by default on the Windows 10 1607, there's something like 26 applications that are provisioned that you can remove. Some of the applications that are installed with Windows 10 you can't remove, like Cortana or the Edge browser. They're core to Windows, so don't remove them. Also, don't remove the store.
Yes, definitely do not remove the store.
Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time trying to get that back and trying to pull from another image. Anyway, there's just don't do that.
Yep.
So either do it one-off, pick some applications, or exclude those exclusively if you're going to do that. So anyway, so let's actually jump into how we can actually get this to our users. So let's open up PDQ deploy. If we wanted to follow along, Jordan actually had a blog that he did not too long ago that shows them how to do this without Active Directory. What you basically need to do is create a package in PDQ deploy.
That blog is, by the way, is located on the bonus content.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. If it's in the pod content, maybe we don't necessarily need to show it exactly how we're going to do this, but what you'll do is create a PowerShell step to run the content that's on that blog, which essentially does what we were doing, grab these list of Appx packages. So in the case, let's run back over to here. Say you want to remove the calculator. We want to take this guy. In fact, I actually have a section for that. This guy. I'm going to copy that. Go back over to the package. This is how you would run that. But remember, this is only going to run for the current user. So you actually want to have this package run as the the logged on user. And so this will remove calc from logged on user. You now have a package that could actually remove that user. So we have Win10, whatever app. In this case, we have calculator. I'm very awesome there. So at this point, we actually want to let's actually add that condition here for making sure that
Chris,
it runs if it's logged on.
why don't you run that on like Chase's machine? Yeah, just mess them a little bit.
Anybody with Windows 10 or Windows 8 and up, actually, if it has that app, it'll uninstall it. So no longer will they have calculator. It'll be pretty funny. I like it. I like funny stuff.
But that doesn't remove the calculator.exe.
No, it doesn't. It just removes the Windows 10, the Windows Store app for the calculator. So this is how you would do that. You could deploy that to a machine and it will remove it from the logged on user. And I'm stressing that a lot because that's very important. The workaround for that, there's two ways. And the first way is kind of complicated. Please look at that blog. It essentially is where you create a script to run in the startup folder for each of the users on a computer. So when they log on, it runs that startup script and then removes those applications and then cleans itself up and removes it, which is pretty straightforward. I actually went ahead and created a quick little script for you guys. It's in the bonus content section, which will actually remove a couple applications from a list. And then I actually have this set up as a scheduled task and show you how to do that if you want to do it as a scheduled task and have that set up on your machines.
Is there a question out there while we're doing this?
Yeah, we have a question from our good friend Dougie Fresh K, busting out some new funky lyrics for us here. I removed many of the unnecessary applications from my test machine, and updates seem to be bringing them back. How can I prevent this?
Hi, Doug. That's a really good question, and we're actually going to cover that once we get over to the group policy section here. So let's just maybe whet your appetite because we're actually going to cover that really quick here. But essentially, it comes down to group policies, the way that you can enforce this.
Yeah, and if you're not, and if you just need to get rid of them, and you're on like a pro version or something like that, and the PowerShell will work for you, then what you would do is you would just have that run on a schedule, and just go ahead and remove that. Or you can use the blog, so every time that they log in, it removes those apps again. So there's basically like 3 methods of being able to do that. But yeah, we'll go over the GPO one, but the PowerShell one would work for that as well.
Yeah, it's not complicated either way, but it does have a lot of steps involved. So we will cover that just shortly here in a sec. In fact, using that same being able to remove and keep those apps removed, you can actually enforce that with like a scheduled task, which I'll show you here in a sec. Yep. So this will make sure that every time they log on, if an app is there, it'll uninstall it before they actually start their using of the computer.
Oh, and just a side note, while he's setting this up, when the Creators Edition comes out, once you uninstall an app, it will not reinstall with an update.
Oh, that's right.
So, yep.
Sorry, we were just looking at this morning.
Good to know.
So, essentially, all you need to do is throw up a scheduled task. I have this here. Set it up. If you're using Windows 10 or earlier with Windows 10 1607, any operating system before that, what will happen is you should be able to use all the triggers and all the conditions for that. But just side note, with Windows 10 1607 anniversary update, something like a quarter of the triggers don't work. There's known bugs in the scheduled task for that. So you're going to have to use things like maybe event-driven triggers, which I've actually set up here. So we've actually, I don't know if I actually included this, but I'll include it in the bonus content so you can actually download it and see it, because it gets complicated pretty quickly.
It does.
Just to show you, this is the trigger I'm talking about. It's just a custom XML, like we specify XPath, and it is pretty complicated. So, but essentially all we're doing is looking for event logs that have happened that look for logon types of 2 or 10, which means interactively local or interactively over an RDP session. And when they log on, run this task. So it's pretty, once you know how it works, it's actually pretty straightforward, but just want to call that out because this can get complicated. Yeah. We actually have a previous webcast, Jordan and I, we did on creating scheduled tasks take a look at it, watch it, and that's kind of how it goes over a lot of that.
Is that in the bonus content as well?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we added the bonus content.
Okay.
So anyway, the action that you want to do, and this is important, is when you're actually doing the PowerShell here, is specifying PowerShell, and then for the parameters is where you're going to point to your file, and then any other additional parameters you might have. But because you can't resize this window effectively, I'm just going to copy this stuff here and open up a notepad to show you, just because that'll be, I think, the easiest. This is what it looks like. We're bypassing the execution policy, and then we're calling, using the command, not the file parameter, to call that particular script. Using the file command, any text after that will actually end up being a named parameter. We don't want that. Anyway, point is, follow this, and you'll actually get results. You'll actually be able to run this script, and the script will actually uninstall all the applications when anybody logs on.
So what is execution policy?
Execution policy is basically PowerShell's way of saying, can I run or can I not run this script? There's 5 different levels and how it's applied, whether it's on group policy, computer, user, the process level, or the user computer, not dictated by group policy. And so by default, it's pretty locked down. But we actually can use this bypass to kind of get around that. Just for this process, this instance of PowerShell, run this command, run this file. So that's a really good question.
Yeah, especially if you've ever used PowerShell and you've ever tried to run something and you get that.
Yeah. That becomes kind of pain. So anyway, it's kind of dry for those who aren't really interested in PowerShell, but if you just actually look at this command, which I think we'll actually have this scheduled task in the bonus content shortly after, you should be able to just use it, swap it out for your script, and it should work fine. So anyway, that's how you do that with a scheduled task. That's really all it is to it, because that will do it at logon of each user and uninstall the applications that you specify via this script which we have provided. So in this case, I just have an application list of Bing and Zune, which are, the Bing weather, Bing news, Bing sports, Zune music, which is Groove. So you can specify what you want to uninstall, and this will uninstall it and give a little bit of logging information for that.
Hey, Chris, is there a way to deploy that schedule to everybody if you send that out using deploy?
Yes, actually, you can do it with deploy. Creating a schedule, there's 2 ways to do that really easily. The first one is using the command line utility schedule tasks, or tasks.exe, and you can actually get that set up. If you use a command line, we actually have tasks is the name of the application, which you can actually then specify. I don't have an example handy right now to show, but this is how you would build it. I reference that on the blog, and I have a lot of examples as well as bonus content available for that. You can do it in PowerShell as well, but it gets far more complicated if you're just doing a simple scheduled task. So,
Dear Brig and Chris, what are PDQ's plans to deploy, remove, and track Windows Store apps? Sincerely, Eric P.
All right, howdy, Eric. That's a really good question. Yeah. I know right now we are looking into the possibility of maybe the business store applications and integrating that, looking up that information. But for consumer applications, I don't think we'll ever do that, because PDQ Deploy doesn't work on home editions of Windows, and so we don't.
It's interesting. We do look a lot at doing those kind of things. However, can't confirm or deny.
That's right.
So.
Right.
Yep. And
one of those veiled feature requests.
Yeah, and the business store, there could possibly be a tie-in with that. It does require a login to the business store, but it is possible that there could be something in the future. But again, we cannot confirm or deny.
Yep. The best bet for now is kind of challenging, but you might be able to scan in the Windows apps directory, or at least the subdirectories for the files, and try and base off what apps you got there. But that's going to be difficult at best. So.
Okay.
Oh, sweet.
Want to do some group policy stuff?
Oh, do I ever?
Yeah.
Always.
Oh.
Let's do it.
All right.
Switching sides.
Switch sides. Okay.
Tag team effort.
Okay. Group policy. All right. So there are a couple of things here. One thing that I kind of want to go over is that you will need to download the latest admx files from Microsoft, and I believe that's in the bonus content as well, the direct link. So you want to download those. As some of you have mentioned in the chat earlier, some of the Pro GP group policy objects have been deprecated, so that's no longer applicable to Pro. And this goes to a conversation that we were having before about Pro versus Enterprise, and how Pro is kind of basically now more along the lines of like a home with the ability to join a domain, and Enterprise really is kind of like where Microsoft is pushing. So we're going to be doing something on this. So Once you download those, what you can do is you can create a ADMX central store, so you can store all of your GPOs, and that contains the entire list. So when you download that, it'll install in program files, and then you can just go and grab those. And then you can put those in here. So you put those in your sysfile folder under domain policies. You create this folder called policy definitions, or it actually does come with when the install. It'll have that folder and all of the policies in there. You can just copy that entire thing over into that. And once you do that and start the GPMC, you will see then that you have the central store for your group policy. Policy definitions here. ADMX files retrieved from the central store, and that's what you've got. And that contains all the latest and greatest. So let's kind of just jump in here to some of the settings. I've done actually quite a bit with these settings here. And we can go down. Actually, let's go over here and just have a brief overview.
That's a good idea.
So basically what I've done here is I've done force deny on all of these. This is just basically privacy issue stuff. You can go through all of these, and I'm actually going to provide like an article on this, on all the things that you can do. And I've combined everything into this one GPO, but you can also separate that out into multiple GPOs, which is probably what you'll want to do. Yeah. But all of these here are just basically security issues. And then down here, we actually get the app privacy and app runtimes issue here. So those are all app privacy. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's see. Hold on here just a second here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to this group policy, and I'm going to show you an edit here. Oh, I keep closing out that window. All right. So let's look at, well, let's look at this one first. Cloud content. It's a perfect one. All right, do not show the Windows tips. This is what we want to do. So what we want to do here is we want to turn off the store, or excuse me, the consumer experience. So we go ahead and just edit that. Very simple and enabled. And of course, the wonderful thing about GPOs is they always have a lot of detailed information here. And so that's something that you always want to read when you're going through this. I've actually gone through all of these, but you can just go through the cloud provisioning.
If I might interject here.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you who might be new to group policy and Active Directory for that matter, be aware that sometimes they throw language backflips at you.
Yeah.
Like in this case here where it says turn off consumer experience, but you're enabling the setting. So one might at first glance think, I don't want to enable that, so why would I set it that way?
Yep.
This is, you're enabling the disabling of it.
Yes.
So,
and that is something that's been confusing, and they've done actually a pretty good job of starting to clarify that, and like going through the older ones and clarifying, but there still exists where the enable is a disable and disable is an enable, so
confusing.
It's interesting.
So,
all right.
Brig, if I do that in a GPO, that'll do it at a user level?
No, this will do it at a computer level. Yeah. So there's computer level GPOs and then there's user level GPOs. Computer level GPOs are all about the computers and users are all about the users. So if you want to apply this GPO, for instance, we have a particular OU that we're applying this to. We're applying this to the computer. Now I've combined user in there. User won't apply until you actually have a user in that OU. So it's always a good idea to like go with the highest level. I don't generally recommend going the domain level with something like specific like this, but you're certainly welcome to try that out and see if that works for your environment. Just depends on how many like Windows 10.
Would it be a
totally
best practice to actually do that at a user level or a machine level, Brig?
It's better to do it at a machine level. Yeah. I mean, there's some user level settings that you want to enable, but yeah, the computer level, this is where all the stuff happens, because that's where you're actually provisioning this for the entire computer. But there are some user settings too, like with the lock screen that we're going to get into here. All right. So, all right. Okay. So, just a couple more of these. So, the app privacy. I just enabled all of these. And another nice thing about this is once you go in, you can just go next setting, next setting, next setting, next setting, next setting, and enable all of those.
That's exciting.
Yes. And then you can apply it, and they're all enabled. But this is the privacy that I was talking to you about, where you can go in there and set all of this. That way, Microsoft doesn't get information, and the apps don't interact with your users. And privacy, like they don't violate you. Essentially, it's important.
It's very important.
And then we've got the data collection down here and preview builds. So you can disable these and user control over the insider builds. So what'll happen is even if you're an enterprise, your end users can receive like information like, hey, there's a new preview out there of this build. Do you want it? Your users click on it and go like, absolutely, I would like this. They download it, they install it, assuming that they have the level of access, and then this prevents them from getting that information.
Yep. Deleted,
Yep.
overridden,
Deleted.
subscribing to Lex's mantra of full contact IT. Yes.
Yes.
Don't let them do things.
Now, allow telemetry is kind of an interesting thing here. So allow telemetry, this is all the information gathering, or a lot of the information gathering. You actually have to enable this, allow telemetry. And this kind of goes back to what Chris was saying about how the language is is very strange. Once you allow it, then you set the security on this. And it will not allow you to just prevent all interaction with Microsoft. But what it does do is this at least stops it so that it only sends the minimal amount. If it's enterprise, you can set this to 0. If you are applying this to pro, it will do what is considered a 1 here, which means that it will send some information, but it's still private. So even though it says enterprise only, it's still applicable to pro. It's just different.
Okay, so what happens if you actually have a machine that is pro and this is set to enterprise only and it applies to it? How would that actually filter that?
Okay, it only sends basic information.
Okay.
So 0 will send like an error occurred, just this is a bug, or this is a problem. But that's it. But a 1 will actually send some basic information. Exactly, yeah.
Enterprise and education.
Yep, and this is for education and enterprise only SKUs. All right.
Yep.
All right, so another thing, OneDrive. I know some people have talked about OneDrive and how much they like it because it's a wonderful product that has been developed.
You too?
Yeah, okay, so you can actually disable all of the OneDrive things. So one of the most annoying things about Windows 10, at least for me, was every time I went to save something, OneDrive would always come up and it would ask me to save to OneDrive. And then I'd have to browse and I'd have to go here and my documents. I just wanted the default behavior because I've been using an operating system for a long time. So I just wanted that behavior and I never got it. So now you can actually make it so that OneDrive is disabled. And
this is almost like the Neo Clippy.
Yes, it is. It is like the Neo Clippy. Yes.
Interesting.
All right, and basically these settings are pretty self-explanatory. Prevent OneDrive from doing file storage, prevent that. It won't actually like get rid of OneDrive, but at least it prevents it from interrupting your UI experience in Windows 10. All right, and then the next thing that a lot of people really find interesting or fun.
Hey, but before you jump into this, let's go ahead and take a question.
Okay, yeah, let's take a question.
We have a question from the lovely Monica K. Dear Brig and Chris, how can we best combat ads that are bound to come back in future patches, such as the ads that have started to show up in File Explorer?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
So there is actually a setting and a GPO, I think, somewhere that can actually disable that. It's the disable sync provider notification or something, I think.
Yeah.
And we actually have a PowerShell script just for that, to actually set that for those who don't have Active Directory or want to control it via PowerShell directly. And so that is, I'm just going to do a quick sneak preview of that, but just while we have this question here, that would actually be right here. So this show sync provider notifications, you set it this D word value to 0. You create it in this location in the registry, and let's get my highlighter. Okay, there we go. So that's what you would do. You'd create that key, create that D word value for show sync provider notifications, and then set it to 0. That will make it so that that lovely little OneDrive ad that we've all been seeing will disappear, and hopefully until Microsoft decides otherwise, any future ads will not show up either.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's
all right. Okay, so the next really cool thing here, I'm just going to go over this. This is like search, turn off Cortana. And the most important thing, or at least for me anyway, and for a lot of people that I know, is to turn off the search. So when you click on the little plus thing down here and or the start button to go, as soon as you start typing, I'm typing for services.msc, I get an entire page of web results that could possibly be it. And if I mistype something and I press enter, then suddenly a browser pops up.
Wait.
Yes.
You don't use your start menu as a browser?
I do not.
Why would you do that?
Because I use a browser for my browser.
I know.
Okay.
What a concept.
Color me old-fashioned. But yes, so there you can actually turn that off. You can turn Cortana off, because Cortana takes up a lot of space down there on your taskbar. No, I've got tasks to do. So yes, that's a good way of doing that. And then probably the most important is going to be what we already discussed with cloud content up here, which is going to be this. And turn off Microsoft Consumer Experience. So the consumer experience, let's see, consumer experience here, there's not really a lot of information about it in the GPO itself, but if you go out to the internet and you look up what the consumer experience it is, it's basically like providing a consumer experience to your end users. They're end users. They're using enterprise. They don't need the consumer experience. They can get that at home.
Wait, but I want Candy Crush Saga, and I want Facebook and Twitter when I hit the start menu.
I'm terribly sorry, but that doesn't, no, that's not work. That doesn't work.
Funny thing, people are saying that on the chat right now.
Yeah.
How can we get Android apps on the Windows 10?
Android.
Don't?
No.
Put your phone, tape it to the screen.
Yes. That's it.
That's my
right
solution.
above. That's what. Yeah. All right, and the next thing is the store. Okay, so there's a caveat here. What you don't ever want to do is with the store is you don't want to disable all apps from the store, because what will happen is they'll still be there. The tiles will still be there, and your user will click on them, and they'll get a big blue box saying that your administrator has disabled this or it's been disabled. So you don't want to do that, because that would be terrible for you, because they'll call you up or they'll send you an email, all of this is broken, because and no one likes an operating system that doesn't do that. So you want to just go ahead and turn off the store application itself. You don't want to, you definitely don't want to disable all apps from the store. And they'll just get a nice friendly message when they try and go to the store, and that's it.
We like friendly messages.
Yep, and again, it's really easy. Very brief description of exactly what it does, and it does exactly what it says on the tin, so that's always very nice.
It's wonderful.
Yep, all right, okay. And let's see, do we want to go into like setting up the start layout? I think we're kind of running short on time. Do you want to do advertising?
Yeah, let's go a little bit. I want to kind of go over the...
And kind of going back to Monica, your question with that, those GPOs I was telling you about, the cloud and the store and things like that, those are, and the Windows experience, that's going to go ahead and turn that off. So there is a user, can we take a question now before we start doing advertising? All right.
Dear Brig and Chris, if we strip the apps, can we then use GPO to pull a custom start menu by OU that we exported using PowerShell, or are they going to cancel each other out? Sincerely, Jack S.
So the start layout, hi Jackie. So the start layout, that will be if you remove an app after you've already done and you've exported the start layout.xml file and then you've used the GPO to push that out. If you use that or if you remove an app from that, it'll just be a blank square.
Yep.
So it just won't show up. It won't be an error or anything like that. It'll just be a blank square. So you could have like an L shape on the start menu, which is okay. I had some mixed results on that when I was messing with that between administrator and just a normal user. So, but it'll just eliminate that.
So what you're saying, if we have differences between administrator and user, how would you overcome that?
You want to actually go ahead and log in as a user and set up the start menu that way. So just a normal user, set up the start menu, export that, and then go ahead and throw that out into the GPO and push that out.
Sweet.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, really quick here. Here's the kind of the quick summary of disabling the advertising via PowerShell. This does not include the telemetry. This does not include disabling Cortana. This does not include any of the fancy stuff that your GPO does. Mostly because I'm trying to say, as much as I love PowerShell, use group policy when you can. It's much more powerful. It can enforce everything. Make sure that your users, your machines, are the way that you expect.
Did I hear that right? Chris says there's something to use other than PowerShell?
You use PowerShell to control Active Directory and group policy. No, clearly you've misunderstood me.
I don't know.
That being said, here's how you do it manually if you're stuck in an environment where maybe a mixed environment of Active Directory and work groups, or you just like PowerShell because you're awesome.
Or using Pro.
Or you can't do GPOs.
Right. So
Do you want to switch?
Sure.
Shane, what did Shane just say? Because no one heard that.
Or you can't use GPOs.
Right,
So,
okay.
I mean, this is the quick way to do it. So just quickly going over this, what I'm doing is I'm basically not force creating, but I'm creating the path for these locations in the registry. The top is for HKey local machine. The bottom section's for the HKey current user, which has to be run as that user. This one will actually attempt to create it. If it doesn't exist, it will create it. If it does exist, I'm just having it error silently. That's just a quick way to actually have it spelled out entirely so it's easy to read. Honestly, you might do, test the path, see if it exists, then create it, but that's neither here nor there. So here's that, creating that key in the registry, and the cloud content, which Brig just went over. These two values are what actually disables. I'm going to scroll over a bit here. The Windows tips and the Windows consumer features, which we just barely saw a few moments ago. These two settings in the registry, these two values will actually disable those. That's actually what's being set when you apply the group policy. Likewise with the current user, we actually have this disable Windows Spotlight features. That's the same thing. Because this is user-based, you can't just set a machine level disable the Spotlight for all users. It's the user space is sacred mantra of Microsoft that they're starting to try and apply in weird ways, not effectively. So you're actually going to have to get this done per user. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. Kind of going back, we can do it with doing startup script on the machine, doing a startup script in group policy. Don't do that. We don't like that. No. Or doing something like a scheduled task. Alternatively, you could look at some of my older blogs where you actually can load another user's registry using the ntuser.dat, but again, we're getting in deep dive here. So, but that's the gist of it. This is how you disable the advertising and all the fun stuff with the applications. Look at my scripts. Take a look at them. They're awesome.
Yep, and we'll have some content out for you next week for the GPOs and all the detailed explanation of what each one does. So look for that as well.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations to Eric P. and Jackie S., winners of brand new PDQ swag. Well done. Just send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have additional questions, please feel free to hit up our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.